And then, of course, we are again very interested, where are we welcoming people from and who are the people who are here, because this meeting is very interactive, and to keep it interactive, it's very important for us to also know who will be joining, who are the experts, and who is the network who will be here today. So as we will anyway very actively be using our chat for the questions, for some interaction, I would like to ask you to type in the chat where you are from, what is your position, which climate energy topics you have been working on. And there is one more request I have to you, which is more technical and which will help us to divide you among the breakout rooms later, is you see next to my name, I have the language indicator, so that I prefer to speak English. So please, next to your name, like find the rename function and write your language preference, indicate your language preference next to your name, so we know that you prefer either speaking English or speaking Russian, and we can divide you in groups accordingly. So first of all, yeah, you're very welcome to write in the chat where you are from, what is your position, and what is the topic that you are mainly working on, so others can also have the more or less overview of who will be here today. And while you will be writing and introducing yourself, I will also move to some more technical issues. So I still have, yeah. Thank you, Armina, for sharing. And I would be expecting more people to share in the chat. So we have 3 very simple rules. It's not the rules, but it's probably more like the agreement how we will be working today. And this is common for any other meeting. Please communicate respectfully, especially today, while we will have a lot of interaction, lots of sharing, lots of things that maybe didn't happen during the last webinar. So it's more interactive, and it's very important to keep this respectful communication. Please try to appreciate different perspectives on different issues. It's also very important for us that nowadays, in this very difficult situation, we understand that people might have different perspectives on the things. So let's try to keep the appreciation. And please stick to the topic. As mentioned, so again, today we will have more discussion and more sharing, but still we have one main topic for our meeting, and we would be happy if you can stick to the main topic, and we will always have some spaces for more discussion. Then few technical issues. First of all, please keep your microphone muted when not speaking. So it will help us not to have the sounds that will cover the main sound of the speakers or the participants who will be speaking. So if you decide to ask a question, which of course is very welcome, especially during today's webinar, because it's, as I mentioned, very interactive, and we will use different interactive tools, please either raise your hand, so find the button of raising your hand, or you can also always write in the chat, and I will be keeping the track of the questions that will appear in the chat, and then pronounce them to the speaker. And then last but not least, so if you will have any technical questions or technical difficulties, you can always use also the chat. You can either write personal to me, or you can write in the for everyone in the meeting. So we will try to help you with the technicalities. And again, I'm reminding you to use the rename button and add the language that you prefer. That will help us to make our work easier during the group work. And I want to give a word to Oля Boyko, who will speak a bit about the series of webinar, but also Kanika, and who is the coordinator of the Kanika.
Thank you. Can you even hear me right now? Let's check.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, we can
choose. And let me choose the English channel now. Should be okay. Because sorry, a bit of a mess up with the headphones and everything. Let me know if you stop hearing me. So I will try to be quick while connection is good. Hi everyone. Welcome to the 3rd webinar that we are organizing together with the UND and 3D Habit Foundation within our joint project of climate dialogues, which we actually started back in 2020. And Right now, we are in this kind of process of reconnecting to you to find out which are the topics that are the most interesting for you. So which questions are interesting for you. And all of this we're going to also use in our planning for next year, because we want to keep this project alive, but we also understand that the world is changing every day drastically. So we want to keep it relevant for you. So please don't be shy in giving your feedback, in giving your perspectives when there is a time for questions or in the chat. This is very valuable indeed. And yeah, basically we as a network work both with our members and with the wider audience as you are, for example. So thank you so much for joining today. This will not be the last thing that we do within Climate Dialogues, but that it is a last webinar in this complete series. So I really hope that you enjoy it. And after we finish, we will send all of the registered participants all of the materials from the 3 webinars. So don't worry, you will get all the information if you missed any of the previous webinars. Thank you and have a good one.
Thank you very much, Oля. So I will first of all remind you again, because I see in the participants list that not everybody added the language indicator to their name. So please again, add the language indicator to your name. So let us know if you prefer English or the Russian. Shortly about today's program. So we will have today, we have only one speaker, but was very interactive and very interesting program. We are already done with the welcoming words and getting to know each other. And I see the chat is very active and I'm really happy about it. We will start to speak about what is ecofeminism. We will discuss the ecofem facts. What do feminist stands for now? And at the end, we will have also the questions and answers. But this doesn't mean that we don't have the interaction in between. We have prepared lots of interactive parts for you, and we will go through them step by step. So yeah, I'm glad to open the session, Ecofeminism, Gender and Climate Justice, and give a word to Maria Suma, who is our speaker today, who is ecofeminist, consultant of integrating gender equality in environmental projects, and author of many, many interesting researches and works.
Thank you very much for introduction, and I'm really very happy to be here, and I'm honest to speak with you about this topic, because I'm from Belarus, and for me it's a great pleasure that this topic become popular in our region, on our countries. So I'm very happy, and I feel this proud to speak with you today about this topic, and I will grateful for sharing your experience and all your knowledge, because I'm sure that only in collaborative we can produce new and important locally knowledge for our regions in this topic. So what we will do today, Tiona said a little bit, but I mostly focus on them. What result maybe I want to see after the seminars. Firstly, I want to discuss what is ecofeminism, because for some people ecofeminism it's mostly about women, but it's not, and we'll speak about it also, and how it can be connected with our daily life, and how we can how it's connected with our activism, with our work in locally on the ground. Interesting to understand how gender equality connected with environmental problems, how people who are involved in environmental problems react to the and connect with gender and affected by gender inequality. And some practical things is how ecofeminism, what ecofeminism and ecofeminists and pro-ecofeminism, because it's not only about women, do today. How we can implement this approach in our work. make our work more sustainable and strength thanks to this approach. As I said, for me, and I'm sure for the whole group of organizers, very important to hear your feedback, what you think about it, what you, according to your local context, think about what is ecofeminism is for you, what you maybe hear earlier, or maybe how it's present in your environment. What do you think it is? There is no right or wrong answers. It's only about your experience, and we will ask you um, to use this QR code and go to the tool Mentimeter, and to write it. What do you think about it? You can scan this QR code or go through the link and to write in the bubbles your association with ecofeminism, what is ecofeminism is. If you go through the links, you have to put this code that you now see on your screens in the top of the screen.
Or you can also just follow the link in the chat, or
so okay, yes, it's very connected, yes, with what you have right. It's women fights for a man. Wow. I think you know already what I speak about. So it's you a quite prepared group, I see. That's point why I want to discuss it, not to speak about, because you have know a lot still. You, according your experience and according your knowledge that you had. Yeah. I think we will have fruitful discussion. There are a lot of experts in the chat, goes in the chat.
and you can also
Простите,
share
пожалуйста,
your.
Ирина Байрамукова, что-то я не успела ссылку скопировать, а телефон...
I'm very sorry, I couldn't copy the link. Could you show the link once again, because my phone is not charged and I cannot scan?
And I think you can write in Russian also if you couldn't do it in English, yes? Not only in English. I see most write in English, but you can also write in Russian.
You can write in Russian, and you can also write in the chat if you prefer, and it's more comfortable for you. You can write in the chat, and then we will copy it to the Menti. I think we have most of the ideas. So we have one more in the chat: how environmental issues affect women, women role in resolving environmental issues. Thank you, Richard.
mentioned most of the points that I want to present. Thank you very much for your answers. Yes, most of the previous slide. Most of the points you've mentioned, yes, when we speak about ecofeminism like a movement, like one branch from of feminist movement, we will see that it's appeared in the second wave feminists somewhere in 1970s. And when we look at the a history of environmental movement and feminist movement, we can see that in this 17th, yes, a lot of environmental organizations appeared, a lot of environmental legislations appeared, and it's a period when we speak about intersectionality, one of the main part of the ecofeminism approach. Because for ecofeminists, they are highlights how the patriarchy and colonialism have created binaries of our modern day society. It's what is binarity. It's men and women, white and non-white, straight and queer, culture and nature. And ecofeminism shows what the real life experience of marginalized groups under climate change. How these barriers and oppressions influence on different groups, and when we speak about these groups, it's not only about men and women. This main idea of ecofeminism that it's emphasized, and activists emphasized that the existing heteropatriarchal capitalist system is not combined with women's right and sustainable planet. And it's meaning that ecofeminism is a holistic approach, recognizes that we all come with the different backgrounds and discriminations. It's different discriminators. It's not only about age, gender, but also about age, social class, sexual identity, education, religion, ability, or social class, and how these barriers include in the capitalism and gender-based violence, and how, for example, environmental crisis and climate crisis influenced on people from different groups differently, and how these people differently involved in the decision making, and what we can do in this situation. We will discuss this later, but for ecofeminism, the main approach is to rethink this structure, capitalism and patriarchy structure, to rethink it and to present new approach. And for example, when we speak about these different norms, I will show you an example. For example, when we speak about old woman from the middle class living in Germany, for example, she experienced climate crisis differently than, for example, young men in Georgia or in Belarus, because they have different vulnerability and have different age, gender, and because of these barriers they feel the climate change differently. And for ecofeminists, it's very important to be to understand and to look at these barriers for changing existing policy, because like ecofeminism and most feminists activists think that it's impossible to save the planet and save the social justice when we save this patriarchal and capitalist system. We need to rethink it. it's also the difference between liberal feminism and radical feminism. For liberal feminism, for example, they think that we need to somehow inbuilt in this system, how to use this system, for example, to improve our situation of women, for example, or planet. For radical feminism, the main problem is in the structure. This hierarchy that built by the capitalism and patriarchal system, they destroy our nature and destroy our peace also. So it's something like basic things that we speak about, and it's some basic points that ecofeminist thinks about it. When we speak about nowadays feminism, there are different branches. Yes, it's researchers and scholars who try to implement all these approaches in their researchers, and activists who try to implement all these approaches in activity and to change the project, policy, and some and others. So we will also discuss it. But firstly, I want to you to present the next slide, to present some facts. Yes, these facts. Could you switch on the next slide? It's I want to show you some facts. It's ecofeminism facts, but we can also to present them like facts that connect position of different kind of groups and climate change. And I divide climate change into different problems to maybe to be more focused on some problems. And the first, for example, what I want to speak about is agriculture and land rights. It's a very sensitive topic because all over the world women more depend on the from the land. Yes, and especially women in the rural economics. And when we speak about that the practically the half of the women all over the world are involved in the agricultural labor, and when climate change influence in agricultural zones, some zones disappear, we see that a lot of women lose their main resource of living. So, and when we speak about our region, we can say that it's more this situation is more important because most women are involved in the agricultural labor. And for example, as you see in the Tajikistan, most of the women depend on these natural resources, and climate change influenced on this sphere influence to the woman the most. The next, maybe the most interesting, or maybe the most discussable maybe topic is energy when we speak about climate change. And also we see this different situation in different sites. For example, when we speak about even renewable energy sectors, even in these new sectors, yes, mostly men involved in this topic. You see that the only 1/4 women involved in the total in renewable energy sectors. But when we speak about traditional sectors, the percentages is lower. So we can see that the renewable energy more women friendly than traditional energy sectors. But we see what's the problem? Women have the less economic opportunities, and they spend more time at home. They mostly involved in care work and mostly spend more time at home. And then the lack of the electricity or other resources influenced on them most, and if they stay at home, for example, for preparing meals or for doing some household activity, and use, for example, more dirty and source of energy, they influenced of the consequences of this using the most. When oh, you switch on the slide. Okay. And for example, when we speak about Georgia, air pollution in homes is 30 times higher than the levels recommended by World Health Organization, and it's because of the women have to use the dirty resources, and yes, there are a lot of projects in Georgia also when the women involved in renewable energy. Yes, it's a process, but the main situation is that using the dirty resources, energy resources, they suffered from the air pollution. And the next slide is about chemicals. It's when we speak about chemicals, we need to focus that women and men have different anatomy, and we men and women differently suffered from the chemicals. They influence in different way because we have different endocrine systems. We have different possibility to adaptation, but it's something that we are, but in the same but from the another side, because of the these patriarchal stereotypes when and this myth of beauty, yes, where women have to be have to look beautiful. They use a lot of cosmetics products, cleaning products when they do their care work, and that's why they expose to hazard chemicals most than men, for example. And in the same case, in the same another point that women use a lot of sanitary, a lot of hydrogen products such as tampons, sanitary towels, and other disposal products that contains a lot of chemicals. For example, tampons consist a lot of phthalates that influence on the endocrine system, and its influence on the woman most because they use is monthly, and all these products are non biodegradable and they pollute environmental also. And in this, yes, we say that products that women used pollute environment, so it's how it's twice pressure for women. Yes, it's also they expose the chemicals exposed to them from one side, and from another side they have a pressure about using non-biodegradable waste. The next slide is about transport. As when we look through the structure of the economical sphere where women involved, we see that the women mostly involved in social and social sphere and family planning in the world. But for example, in our country, this not deviation, but this difference is shown mostly. For example, when we speak about transport, only 1% of women involved in transport sectors. But as we see that the women and men have different trip patterns. For it's connected with the way of living that they used that they experience. For example, male trip patterns is from the house to the workplace, and they use mostly private transport, and women mostly because they have to they involved in care work mostly. Their care duties and household tasks and children care in their trip patterns are not so direct. They have to visit a lot of another places, and they mostly use public transport. And when we show these different trip patterns, we can see that private transport is there uh, is cost much more CO2 emissions than public transport. So we can see the different different trip patterns cause different CO2 emission. And as we see that male mostly involved in the transport policy and mostly dominate in the transport industry. So we can see that in the case when the women don't involved in the decision making, they can't influence on the policy. So the next slide is about decision making, and for me it's like the most important topic, and discuss the most discussing maybe topics also. As we see, I couldn't find this statistic according our region, but when we speak about global context, we see that the only just 16 percentages of those who related to environmental, energy, territory planning, transport, science and technology, it's only 16% is held by women, this position held by women. So we see that the very often women suffered from the climate change crisis mostly, but they are not involved in the decision making or involved in a very low scale. But we know that statistics said that when the number of women in parliament rising, it's lead to changing environmental policy. So environmental policy become more sensitive if the number of women in parliament raised. Even in United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, only just 33% of decision-making position occupied by women. So in this situation, women are less able to utilize their wealth of knowledge and skills. So the next very sensitive topic is about disaster risk reduction. So when we look through the consequences of climate change, and we see that the women and children are 14 times more die from the natural disasters. Why it's so? Mostly because women is difficult, less mobility than men. Women and children and elder people, it's difficult to go out from the region of climate disaster, for example. So they suffered from this consequences mostly. And also there are a lot of stereotypes according how women have to lead in some critical situation. For example, a lot of women couldn't able climb or run effectively because in the childhood they're not to be taught in running and climbing, and also statistics said that in the community, that in disaster affected communities and communities or territory where climate change affect mostly experience rates of gender-based violence and sexual exploitation raised. So we see that the it's happened in not only in climate change situation, but also in every crisis situation, gender-based violence raised. So, and climate change and environmental crisis is not excluding from this statistic as beating. So it's maybe it's the first layer of explanation how the gender equality and environmental crisis connected. So it's some facts, maybe you know some of them, maybe you know another facts. So we want to give you some space for personal reflection about it. I would like invite you to think about what you feel after reading or listen to these facts. Maybe another fact that you faced earlier, and what maybe what examples what the most outstanding examples for you was, and maybe another's you know previously, and try to think about what examples could you not relate on, why some of them are not relate to you. Think about it. Maybe you have some resources, or maybe you have some privilege, or maybe you don't maybe in your environmental nobody speaks about this topic. Think about it, why some facts are not effect on you. And in the same case, in the same from and also from another side, to think about what climate changes issues matter the most to you and why. Maybe not to you, but maybe to people around you. What climate change issues you are experienced personally in your life. Maybe I can show you an example. For example, according to my experience, the most effective fact box for me is chemicals pollution of hydrogen products. It's I feel an anxiety about it because I use this product every month, and I'm not part of decision making of changing the approach how this product designed. And I feel that I couldn't do anything in this situation because the supermarket present me only several items, and I could choose only from bad and the worst, for example. From another side, I'm don't think about natural disaster problem in my region, because in my region personally I don't feel it in my personal life. Maybe because I live in the country which which government don't speak about this problem. Yes, maybe it's not a privilege, but the lack of information that I have about the climate change problems. And so, and I for me it's climate change problem, and I feel an anxiety about it, and some I couldn't, and I feel useless sometimes about it. So I think you can do the same reflection personally. We give you 5 minutes for it to think about all this question according to your experience. What do you feel about it? What facts relate to you, and what facts um, don't relate to you, and why? I think what you have privilege and what vulnerability you have also. So we give you 5 minutes till the 47 minutes to think about it. If you have some question or it's something is not clear for you, you will ask this question in the chat.
Or even if you want to
Yeah.
share some reflection, you can also share it in the chat for the others too.
It's a first step of our exercise, and we will return to the reflection on the next steps. So it's maybe if you have a possibility to write these answers, maybe some thoughts, maybe somewhere on paper, or on some papers, or maybe in the chat, so that you can return to your thoughts and feelings. you very much for your reflection. I hope that it was okay for you to think about these very sensitive topics now. And now we will ask you to share maybe some thoughts that you have. And for this, we ask you to go to scan this QR code and go to the Padlet. You have to work. You've worked with it earlier, so it's a little bit similar for you. And in this Padlet, we will ask you to write two different maybe kind of message. For example, choose a couple of key facts from the facts what I speaking about and what matter to you, or maybe matter others if you have them. For example, write them in left table and after under the my K issue, and then look back to the self-reflection task and identify some of your strengths, some of your maybe resources that you resources that you have, and to write it in my experience table. So under the excuse me, you have a question? Have you a question? Somebody speaking.
Please mute if you don't have any questions.
In the left table under my key issues, please write some facts that matter to you mostly, and in the right table under the my experience, write, for example, some strengths or maybe some resources that you have after your reflection. What helps you maybe to face to these problems or some issues. For example, I will show. Okay. For example, yes, somebody wrote it. My example, for example, one of the most key issues that I speak about is chemicals in the hydrogen products. It's very relate to me, to my experience and to experience of a lot of my colleagues. And yes, I have a lot of knowledge about this topic. I have experience to speak about this topic with a wide audience, and I could do some campaigns on this topic and to it's the second step, the next step, but I have experience, I have a lot of knowledge about this topic, so I feel a little bit strength when I faced with this topic in the future, because I have knowledge. I have I have a possibility to buy something another, for example, some products with certification, for example. Yes, a lot of people what key issues they yes, air pollution, and yes, as I understand you, as according to these answers, I understand that most of you understand correctly. So, but there is no right or wrong answers. It's only your experience. It's only it's your local problems that you faced, and what are you interested in. Maybe with some of them you're working now professionally.
I will have many comments in my key issues, and it would be great also to have some more in my experiences.
Let's think about what we have now in this situation. It's not only material resources, it's also about people who around us. It's our colleagues, it's our team, it's our people who support us. Yes, it's also a CAN organization. You are part of the CAN organization network, and it's also a lot of resources that can help you in some decisions, or maybe support you in some knowledge. Yes, rural women ones that they talk. Yes, to working with. Oh, some people have a lot of resources. So when we check what we have, we can see that we have a lot also. You also can write in Russian and English. It's what suits you most. Yes, it's also my dream to grow in like a feminist movement. Yes, in Western Europe. Okay, I think we will do it 1 more minute. Yes, turn. Yeah.
Maybe last comments if you have, and then we will move to the next assignment. Women in agriculture. We will also send you this reflection board so you can recap after this meeting what was written and what people shared.
Yes, also you will get the presentation, and in the presentation you can get links to the different papers where this ecofeminism facts, also a lot information about some reports and papers that can be useful for your further works in this direction.
As I see, nobody else is typing, so I think we can go to the...
Okay, thank you very much for your reflection, for your works. So now we will ask you to share what your thoughts and your experience, and what I would like you focus on is how we can connect your resources and with the problem, what you can do, what you want to be done, for example, in your region, according these topics, the key issue that you mentioned, how your resources can help to it, maybe maybe in these groups you will connect your resources, or to think about how we can use our resources to solve these problems. Maybe it can be a campaign, maybe it's be some work with your communities. Let's think about what we can do thanks to our resources and our strength sites, what we can do with this key issue. It's a group work during the 10 minutes. You will divide it according language that you write. So it's
So most of you are already assigned the rooms. So when we open the rooms, you will be assigned to concrete language group. We try to assume for those who did not indicate the language, what is your preference. But if you find out that the main language in the group is something else and you want to be assigned to the other language group, you can leave the group, come back to the main room, and then we will assign you to the other group.
Yes, this work group will need you 10 minutes discussion. So and then we'll return in the main group and to make a short reflection what you are, what thoughts and or insights you've got.
Okay, so I hope they will find their way in the languages.
Maria, if you want to go to group, you should, are you co-host, by the way? Yes, you are. You should be able to, when you click on breakout rooms, you should be able to join a group, and then please group number 11 at the very bottom. There are only 2 people in there.
Okay, I will see 11. Yes, 11.
Yeah,
Wait,
at the very bottom after the Russian
yes.
groups. Yeah.
Okay, 11. Okay.
As expected, many people drop off when they hear breakout rooms.
Yes.
At least 10 or more left.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
and they keep dropping
45.
off. Yeah.
But there were quite many people today.
Yeah, more than 50. So
Yeah.
excluding us, around 40. Yeah. But they're keeping dropping off. 38. Maybe I jump into a group. There are 2 only. Ah, Elena, I met her last time. I will join them. So see you.
See you.
Yeah, this is all I talked to myself and then I shared with you. And thank you for listening.
Very nice. We also wanted some sharings, so it's good. Maria, we had some sharings in the main room too, so for people who were left alone. Okay. I think now everybody is back. Maria, we don't hear you because you're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your group work. And if you want to say something, maybe to share your ideas or maybe insights that you've got from the discussion, we welcome you here. And we have time for this experience and group discussion. You can share it here or maybe in chat if you have. Yes, it is.
And also please choose again the interpretation channels so you get the right interpretation, because when you came back, it might be that you are in the original channel. So please choose either English or Russian. And yes, you can also share in the chat, of course.
Okay, maybe somebody wants to share something.
Well, I can share what we discussed with Anna because it was, I think, very
Yeah, I can.
interesting.
Yeah, I can
Yes,
share
please.
as well.
Yeah.
We talked about Georgia. The first fact box was about women in agriculture. We said that women in Georgia are mostly involved. Most women work in the regions, especially in agricultural sector. However, they don't have access to education about agriculture, and all the knowledge they get is from their practical experiences, and they don't have power to influence any policies or to make decisions around the money that comes even to family. And yes, we talked about this, and then we talked about menstrual products as well, how expensive they are in Georgia, besides being you know, not good for the environment. And when it comes to women, women's economic empowerment, it directly affects their financial stability, because we need these products every month and not a lot of women can afford them. Besides that, we don't have alternatives. As you mentioned, your experience, we have the same experience, but they're quite expensive.
Maybe we talk about some decisions, or maybe some plans, or maybe something that you want to be done, will done in the future.
Yes, about menstrual products, we had this discussion at work as well. We want maybe to have someone, or maybe that should be us, to start advocacy campaign, try to reduce taxes on menstrual products that would decrease the prices, but at the same time maybe to provide a free pads and sanitary products to schools or the universities at least. This is our like plan for now, something that might be done. And about agriculture, I think we need to educate women and give them more access to education when it comes to agriculture and decision-making processes. And not only men should be presented, for example, at the meetings when it comes to, like meetings in the villages and etc., where women are always in the fields, but men make decisions about money and where the money goes, which is produced from agriculture as well. And I forgot to mention, Theo as well shared her experience as a mom in Georgia. Transportation and decision-making process is also very connected here, that like transportation is not like friendly to mothers. Yes, and this is another big issue that actually needs to be solved, probably to design just buses, which are quite new in Georgia now, but like women with children cannot really find seats, and there's no space.
Or use
Yes.
the trolley, for example. So
Yes.
the conclusion was that we need more women in the decision making, because then everything is connected. So nothing is designed for us, because the decisions are made by people who
Without
have
us,
no
yes.
menstruation or don't take kids to multiple places, for example.
Oh, it's very fruitful discussion you had. Yes. And when I think about this topic in our region, I think that it's difficult to decide from what we can start, because so many things need to be done. Really. Thank you very much. Maybe somebody else want to share? Yes. Before I will share how ecofeminism think about it. Okay. Mm. Okay. Yes, I will not give you some magic decisions. It's also, it's very often it's something like concept, and one of the very popular concept is gender mainstreaming. I'm sure that some of you heard about it. It's involved in different countries, projects, and many donors also asked to provide gender mainstreaming in projects and programs, and also we can see gender mainstreaming in different legislations also. What is it? It's a process, how we integrate gender perspective in different steps of implementation of project policy. It's on the step of design of on the step of implementation, on monitoring, and we need it's a very big topic, and if it's interesting, maybe we will discuss how gender mainstreaming can be done. It's firstly we need to do gender analysis to understand what groups we have, what barriers they have, how our project of policy can include these barriers. So it's very big approach, but it's something like part of the design of the new future also. Also, ecofeminists very often speak about green budgeting, and what I'm speak about, for as you see previously in the presentation, there is several sphere where there is a lack of women in some spheres such as energy, transportation, and others. So from one side we can raise the numbers of women in this sphere. From another side we raise the financing of spheres where women involved the most. For example, education, where environmental education, we see that's mostly women involved in this topic. And when we speak about budgets, we need to think that sphere where women involved mostly need the same financing that the spheres where men involved also. So when we speak about NGO, education, some social topics. Also for ecofeminism, very important to think about ecosystem-based solution with which originated from the ecofeminism practice, not to think about how to implement some intersectionality approach in existing ecosystem-based solution, but to think about it when we design it, to think about what groups will be involved in these solutions, can be involved in the solution, who will get the result from these solutions, how this result will be divided from the different groups. And also for me, it's maybe the most interesting and maybe the most revolutionary idea, I think so. It's to think about the efficiency, not from the point of the GDP, like we measure nowadays everything from the raising GDP and say if the GDP raised, so the wellness raised, but not. It's raised only for some groups, and other groups are in the same stage. But when we try to understand how different solutions not involved, but influence on our well-beings, not of well-beings of some groups, but when we can measure these well-beings, and it's also called economy of care. Yes, that we try to not divide some money or some resources, but also some surroundings, maybe when these different vulnerabilities or marginalized groups can be developed and have possibility to develop their abilities. So it's yes, it's some of these steps look very maybe like magic, but we need to think about it. We need to point to raise it, and who will done it? Yes. So there are still now there are a lot of not a lot of, I think it's not enough, but there are some ecofeminist organizations and initiatives, and I'm note some of them. And the next slide is some of them is to maybe the most not the most influenced also, but who produce the most information and papers, and on which researchers and which points we can rely on. For example, when we when we plan our activity, as it's very important to base on something, not to produce something new that have exist. And it's there are a lot of another organizations and initiatives, and maybe some of them representatives of some of them nowadays here, but these two organizations is who maybe the biggest, and who involve the most partners. And they for example, when we speak about some ecofeminism critics on some environmental legislation, for example, a very big critics ecofeminism critics on a Green Deal paper, and which made from women engaged for a common future. For example, it's a quite big organization with a lot of experts, and also they're based on this well-being's issue, gender mainstreaming, and intersectionality approach. And it's very, and they produce a lot, also a lot of research that we can, and statistic. For example, for our region, we have a lack of statistic in different topics, so we can rely on some of them statistic. um, so yes, there are a lot of things done, a lot of things we want to be done. And my question is about, the next question is about what we can do on the place where we are now, what we can do to make our project more gender, and not only gender but social sensitive, so, sensitive for all social groups. What we can do, what we can do. Yes. Let's imagine if we have a magic power, what we can do. For example, it's we also go to the Mentimeter, Menti tools, and try to think about it. What we can do if we have a great power. Yes, we had it, but if we can do, what we will do fastly, what can do in our organization. Maybe we will start from our place, what we can do in our project, very simple, or where we can do in maybe in our group, in our initiatives. For example, um, what I will do, maybe what will I do, what I advise to do maybe fastly is to read more, because when we read more, we understand that the picture is bigger, how somebody said in the beginning of our seminars, that it's possibility to see bigger picture, not only what happened around us. So yes, educate more. Yes, educate ourselves and our groups. Yes, because when we are working, for example, with teachers, for me it's the most conservative groups. Yes, very often, but we try to speak about gender equality with them, and when we try to show them on their own examples how in their own lives gender equality is, they be more open to other information. So, and for me, yes, it's a very sensitive topic. Yes, not everybody wants to speak about it. So it's but yes, it's different. There are different positions. Yes, what we can do, educate, we ensure access to finding. So maybe somebody want to share what they can do on their place, not maybe globally, but where they are in their projects, maybe what they want to do after these seminars. Maybe we'll send some links of research, or maybe some to write some post in Instagram or Facebook or something else about some issue of this topic. Yeah. Very important to do something when you get some information is but as somebody said that information doesn't work only experience, only when you try to do something, as information is not enough. Yes, information is only first step. It's something that can push us to do something, but it's not only decision.
Maria, what would you say is the next step? You're saying information is not enough, but
Yes,
what is it? What you mean? We have to
if you
do
get
something.
information, it's not enough. You need to do something. Yes, it's information doesn't work. I say it works only when you implement this information somewhere. If you share this information, for example, if all these people who are participating in these seminars hear something, it's only one step. We need to maybe to share this information, to do next step, so that in this case this information will be valuable. Yes, that's why I also very often I ask not only to listen to, but to write, because when we are write something, our reflection, we made some reflection, we discuss something, it's produce another energy. I don't know how it's called, magic maybe. Yeah. And for example, after these seminars, I also will speak with some young women in Tajikistan about this topic. It's for me, it's very valuable to have possibility to speak with different people with different experience. Maybe you will do the same with your organization, with your partners, with your donors also, for example, to propose them to include gender mainstreaming in your project, for example, or maybe to include support of the mothers in your project, for example, to make space, for example, in your seminars or offline seminars for mothers, for example, and mothers from the rural areas can take children with them to the seminars and to get this information, and somebody will care her children in this place. So it's to think a little bit what can done, even if the lack of the resources, even if you don't have a lot of money to change policy or to empower all women to participate in environmental solutions, but to do a first step, it works like a how it's called, snowball. If you do something somebody will connect you, and so the changes happened in this way. Okay, thank you very much for your participation. I hope that some of information will be useful, was useful and will be useful for you also, and maybe something empower you to do in your organization something. Or if you have a question, you can, I don't know how
You can write in the chat if there is like any last comment or question. You can write in the chat, or raise your hand.
Yeah.
We can prolong by 5 minutes maximum. So if there's anything.
And for example, if you have no ideas what to ask now, you can, for example, to write maybe, I don't know whom, something, and they will connect if you need some maybe support or consultation. I also happy to do it for you and to speak maybe, because it's very difficult to make changes where you are alone. It's very important to speak about something, to discuss something, to get some support.
There were some comments in the chat that I saw about like collaboration and sharing your contacts. So if you found some peers with whom you can collaborate, it's very nice. And if you don't find their contact, you can always approach us and we will try to connect you with them. And with Maria.
Yes, I'm real happy to be useful for you and for some changes that you want to do.
Yeah, I think there are no questions coming. Only thank yous. And I would also like to thank you, Maria. It was, for me personally, it was also a very important topic and very interesting discussion. So thank you for this. And
for possibility to be here and to speak with you. And I will repeat that it's a great honor for me to speak with you here.
And Nurjan already shared another invitation for another webinar on ecofeminism. So you can also join, as I remember, it's on the 25th of October. And what I have seen so far sounded very interesting. And thanks everyone for joining and being here and being actively involved. This is, of course, very interesting because, as we mention all the time, it's not only that we bring experts to you, but you're the experts whom we invite for the networking and connecting with each other. So see